it is important, I think, to know that there were until now two architects named Kahn. Albert Kahn, born in 1869 and died in 1942. And then Louis Kahn, of course. So Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn was born with 32 years before Louis Kahn. Louis Kahn was born in 1901 and Albert Kahn in 1869. But they lived about similarly. Yeah, Louis Kahn died at 73 and Albert Kahn also died at 73. So Albert Kahn was the foremost American industrial architect of his day. He is sometimes called the architect of Detroit, designing such major industrial works as the Ford River Rouge complex, the largest in the world when built, as well as skyscrapers and office buildings in the city and mansions in the suburbs. He built a practice with hundreds of architects. In 1937, his firm designed 19% of all architect design factories in the United States. Can you imagine? In addition, under a unique contract in 1929, Kahn established a design and training office in Moscow, sending 25 staff there to train Soviet architects and engineers and to design hundreds of industrial buildings under their first 5-year plan. He was the only consulting architect on Soviet industrial construction. In 1943, the Franklin Institute posthumously awarded Kahn the Frank P. Brown Medal. So this was the man. I thought he had a mobile phone, a smartphone in his left hand, but no, is some kind of a measuring device. He's doing shopping drawings, meaning shop drawings, correcting working drawings. And but I like his black phone here. I wish I had one of these static phones. I'm tired of the mobile phones. The problem is on this one, you couldn't receive SMS, an SMS. But maybe they will, I'm sure sooner or later we'll see these phones again, but they will be digital and equipped with the ability to receive the ubiquitous SMS. The architecture of Albert Kahn, the architect of Detroit, obviously a very successful man. He might have had hundreds of employees, but he's always shown alone and smiling, of course, with his success. Who wouldn't smile? You did it, Mr. Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn in Detroit, building the modern world. Indeed. Detroit now is a ruin. He would not have thought of something like this possible. But the ferocious laws of economy, disturb even the most pessimistic. Amplify even the most pessimistic forecasts. The architect of Detroit, which used to be the 5th largest and powerful city in the United States, and it arrived at such a level of decay that some years ago, for example, you could have bought a beautiful brick building with 2 or 3 floors, with Victorian detail and so on, with a number of rooms, with $1,000. Because nobody would live there because of criminality and economical problems and so on. So Detroit became indeed a ruin. Drawings by Albert Kahn. Let's not imagine we are going to see drawings by Eric Mendelssohn here. No, we are going to see, the working drawings. He didn't do wild, expressionistic, colored, visionary drawings like Ledoux, and Ledoux didn't do them in color, but Eric Mendelssohn did. This is what Albert Kahn did, and it's kind of interesting, you can do significant buildings even if you use representational methods that are very Euclidean, like this. no fancy, renderings. Maybe he had, but his own drawings that I searched for, he only show things like this. Construction, working drawings. Nothing exceptional here, it's anyway. The Fisher Building in Detroit, USA, the United States of America. Uh, Not the smallest building on earth, that's for sure, and not the least proud either. Look at this. I don't think it's bad, actually. No. I mean, if an architect builds just one building like this and nothing else, and that architect would have a legitimate claim to a certain kind of posthumous fame. But he built so many, you'll see. Anyway, it's a big building, in Detroit, which never thought of itself capable of collapsing the way it did. But then Rome and the Roman Empire also collapsed. So this also collapsed. Not the building, but the city. It's trying to come back to life now, but it's not easy. It was a bankrupt city, bankrupt. This is a good building by Albert Kahn. Look at the interior. Who said that capitalism is dry and gray and boring? No, look at this. You are transported into an opulent world of aesthetics. Look at this, Who said that modernity is supposed to have no ornaments at all? Well, Albert Kahn didn't think so. And personally, I think these ornaments are adding something to the building, not subtracting something from the building. Now, I don't know why I chose this picture here, because with that man who is doing extreme sports. So this was placed inside the building. Interesting. But the building is good, actually. I mean, this building would have made famous many cities of the world if it was built in those places. And in the States, in Detroit, but not just in Detroit, there are so many cities with similar buildings, kind of, but maybe not so rich at the interior as this one is. They had the money, of course, because the automobile industry was based there, and the Ford production of cars was momentous, and it was a time of limitless possibilities. So that's why they afforded such a building there, of splendor, luxe, calme, volupté, to use the words of Charles Baudelaire. Look at the artworks there. Look what's going on there. The paradise garden here, and God. Now, of course, this figurine here is very different from what Michelangelo depicted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. But all in all, I think is a decent building, and picturesque, at least at the interior. Look, this is architectonic splendor. You know, I'm not saying that the word splendor is just, you know, depicting positive attributes. It can be also used a little bit polemically, if not pejoratively, but the architecture is not bad. Look at this. It's a secular building, but it has aspirations which transcend secular limitations. Even at the top higher levels, you know, look at the corridors. Look at the lamp. I mean, just the lamp itself. Forget about the building. Look at the lamp. Chandelier. And the building, he designed also this. So he designed this and he designed this, is the same man. These are powerful, huge buildings. General Motors, Detroit. General Motors building in Detroit. You just saw it. So we are looking at this building now, and we just saw this building on the left. General Motors. We are talking about one of the primal gods of early capitalism, and the building does show it. I mean, you cannot play games with the General Motors. But the General Motors also, you know, had collapsed because they exported their jobs to China, and that's why Detroit collapsed, and that's why even what's the name of the city? Flynn? I forgot. Flynn, not far away from Detroit, which had Flint, which had the headquarters of Cadillac, totally collapsed. In fact, and I'm not lying, I can tell you that I bought a house in Flint with $200. And I used to tell my daughter, Anna, the shadow of the tree in front of the house deserves more money than the house. I never visited it, and it was probably a ruin inside. I bought it on eBay, $200. Can you imagine? A house. But later I found out that the city of Flint was the most criminally charged city at that time in the United States. Because people were despairing. There were no jobs. They were sent to China. And yes, at one point, Flint was beautiful because they were producing Cadillacs there. But once the Cadillacs began being produced in China, Flint fell apart. And the former workers began to drink, and then began to buy guns, and then they began to shoot at each other, and thus they began to kill each other. And so, you know, as I said, you could have found at that time incredibly inexpensive. Can you imagine a building with 2 entrances whose cost is $200? Anyway, General Motors. We look at it and we wonder, you know, what happened? You know, what happened? And they didn't have the brilliant idea to change for the production of bicycles. You know, they stuck to cars. Anyway, it was restored. It's a powerful building, but look, it's almost nobody on the streets, right? Just one person, you know, crossing no one on the streets. The Cadillac place. Wow. I once wrote an essay, and who is interested, I could send it to you, to him, to her, called A Cadillac with Horns. And this is the Cadillac place in Detroit, designed by Albert Kahn. Happy birthday, Albert Kahn. Anyway, huge buildings, you know, because there was a lot of money, and yeah. Anna Scripps Whitcomb Conservatory It's a conservatory, which is not bad. It's a good building by Albert Kahn. Um, Not very, I mean, there are other conservatories similar to this one, but it's fine. It's designed well. I wonder what Louis Kahn would have thought of the buildings of Albert Kahn. I don't know who that person is there. Anyway, Edsel and Eleanor Ford house. This is a Victorian dream of, obviously, I imagine Edsel, I mean, I'm not an expert, far from it, in the Ford family, but maybe either an offspring of the, or it might be that actually this Edsel Ford is the famous Ford who created the T Ford model. Anyway, the house, the estate is impressive, and it is a house that would have been very admirable and admired in Great Britain by the Victorian society, maybe even by Queen Victoria. It's a good building. I wouldn't mind living there. I couldn't afford it. Of course, I cannot rent even a studio there, but it's a fine building. So it was worthy of the man of the god of the automobile industry. Let's put it this way, because that's what we are talking about. But isn't it interesting? I mean, really, it's a picturesque, very pleasant, campus with buildings that are romantic, kind of in the arts and crafts tradition and movement, and I think that it's very fine. It's just that, as opposed to Villa Savoie, where the car was supposed to, circle around the base, and the whole house was designed with the car in mind. Here you can get rid of the cars very easily. In fact, you don't see the cars. It's an architecture that could have been very, possible at a time when the car didn't exist at all. Nice work, but kind of nostalgic in a way. Because what does this have to do with a huge, even with the office buildings that you saw, the Cadillac Palace? Nothing. But I guess, it's just like today when in the Silicon Valley, you have giants of the Silicon Valley, entrepreneurial kind, who live in houses with verandas and sloping roofs and so on, which have nothing to do with the high-tech spirit that they promote through their activities. The Cranbrook House and Garden, I prefer the Ford House until now from all his buildings, because I like the arts and crafts movement, and I like buildings covered by ivy, and I like the Gothic. Futurama, now, surprise, surprise, ladies and gentlemen, did Albert Kahn have a bipolar personality? Because just look at this building. Well, where is it? Yes, it will come. It has always been man's wish to look into the future. It's easy to fantasize about a distant future filled with striking utopic inventions. Either way, no one will be alive to see if they'll come true. But it's hard to imagine such innovations happening in a short term. This was the hard task General Motors embraced when it decided to promote the Highways and Horizons exhibit, also known as Futurama, at the World Fair in New York in 1939. The goal was to show what the world would be like in 20 years, that is in 1960. At the end, the audience would get a badge that proudly stated, "I saw the future." So this was built in 1939. The Highways and Horizons building, of course, not mention at all about pollution or depleting the resources of the earth. But the building is indeed nice. And look at this, and look at the populace. Look at the number of people staying in line to see this extravagant invitation to the future. Look at the people, watching, looking from the comfortable seats at the big model of whatever they were displaying there. Very elegant, these New Yorkers at the time, much more elegant than now. In fact, I don't know, I look at them and I envy them, how civilized and good looking and well dressed are and well behaving. And look at this, 1939. The longest online I participated in was at Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris. There was an exhibition with the works of Basquiat and what's his name, an Austrian painter. My memory is beginning to have problems. Anyway, we stayed in line with students from INCU for a long time to enter the building, but it was worth it because the building itself was remarkable. Anyway, 1939. Who would have thought that just a few years later, the Americans would drop bombs, atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? So, talking about the future, right? This is 1939, and just 6 years later, more than 200 people died because of the atomic bomb. There was no mention of the atomic bomb at this World's Fair in 1939. It was just an optimistic view about the future. But the monster, the beast, exists. It's hidden. We don't talk about it, but it exists. It exists even at this moment. There are in the undergrounds, in the bowels of the earth, incredible atomic destructive forces stored there. What if one day, as unexpectedly as it happened in 1945, it would happen again? You see, the human beings, we project a future, but it seems the future takes care of itself in its own terms. In all this glorious World's Fair in 1939 in New York City, no one expected to have premonitions of the drama, of the tragedy, which the Second World War, which was almost, knocking at the door, so to speak, at that time. Very, very sad. Ford Rotunda. This is the Ford Media Center. Look at this building. Again, we have Albert Kahn showing his talent and his versatility. And he was lucky to be employed by the powers of his time. I think this geodesic dome was done later, probably on the design of Buckminster Fuller. So it is covering the inner yard, the courtyard of the circular building. Industrial buildings. Now you are going to see some industrial buildings by Albert Kahn. This one you remember a very similar building in a way by Eric Mendelssohn, but this is by Albert Kahn. He was excellent, truly excellent, and I like industrial architecture. It's powerful, it is robust, and it is frost. It tells the truth. It's not embellished with little, makeup. No, industrial. Now look at this. it's mass production, right? The T model or whatever it is it's almost frightening, actually. You know, this the militarization of comfort in a way. And look at the cars, you know, ready to invade the world, ready to bring with them the incredible pleasures and tragedies of driving. You know, at that time nobody thought, wait a minute, but these little monsters, these mechanical insects, they pollute the air. No, they didn't think about this. But these days we should think about this. It's otherwise we are killing ourselves. You know, we need badly trees, not T models cars or what other kinds of models. The building is fine. The cars, I guess some people enjoy them. I don't. I know. The car is giving you the illusion of freedom, and freedom meaning the freedom to run away from yourself, essentially. As Fernando Pessoa said, it must be beautiful in Australia as long as you don't go there. Now, of course, I can be accused of hypocrisy because I myself crossed an ocean at one point in my life, but it has been said that the shortest road to oneself is around the world. So the only problem is going around the world involves ships, planes, cars, less bicycles, really, unless you are an incredible bicyclist with incredible legs. So to bicycle around the world is not for everybody. So if we have planes and we have buses and we have trains and we have ships and we have cars, we run and run and run, and the highways of the world are filled and filled and filled. And we don't think about pollution, of course. View of the principal and lateral facades of the test cells. I like this building very much, and I think Louis Kahn would have liked it too. It's primeval, it's powerful, it's elemental. Hello, Aravena. It's elemental. It's an elemental building. And it was done by this almost unknown architect with an immense success, Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn, The Evolution of the Factory. După moartea sa, biroul său de arhitectură există în continuare. Iată una dintre lucrările lor recente, The Detroit Zoo. So, after his death, his office, as it is the fashion in the United States, his office continues, and they produce architecture even at the present. And this is one of the recent works, the Detroit Zoo. And you see the language, the architectural language is adapted to, you know, to the present, you know, diagonals, you know, sloping roofs, of a modernistic, dramatic, you know, with even you might say with self-destructive tendencies, and that's it.